Hey there, and welcome to this week's module and this week's video lecture. So last week we talked about prosecutors and judges. So if your skills of deduction are up to par, you have figured out by now that we are going to talk about defense attorneys. They're of the three primary actors in the court system. They're the only one we haven't talked about yet. So one thing to keep in mind that something you may see again later is as a professor once told me, the three primary actors in any court system, at least in the American court system, are going to be the judge, the prosecution team, and the defense team. So prosecutors, defense attorneys, and judges make up that triumvirate. So something to keep in mind. But let's keep moving on towards defense attorneys. So one thing that you should know by now, as you've studied in criminal justice and you know the Miranda rights, everybody has the right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford one, one will be appointed for you. But let's talk about how that happens. How does one get appointed for you? There's a couple different ways that happens, and it really depends on the jurisdiction in which we're talking about. So, for instance, in a large municipal environment where there are just a ton of cases and the caseload is very large, like Los Angeles, there's going to be a public defender's office, and folks who are attorneys quite literally work for the public defender's office. They work for the county of Los Angeles. They're government employees, and all they do are handle court appointed defenses. So they may get cases that they haven't seen yet, and they're going to go straight to arraignment, or maybe it gets passed on. They go straight to a preliminary hearing. That's all they do. They, like I said, they get their paycheck from the county or from the government, and they are full time public defenders. The other way that that can happen is in smaller environments, less urban environments. There may not be enough cases to support an entire office of public defenders, and in those cases, there would be a set of attorneys in the area who specialize in criminal defense, and then they rotate, getting contracted by the court to defend somebody who is indigent or can't afford an attorney. So those are the two ways. Sometimes it's a full-time job and that's all you do. Other times you have your own practice and you are appointed for somebody on a contract basis or I hesitate to say a part-time basis, but that is not the only thing you would do as a defense attorney. So those are the two primary ways. But let's talk about the efficacy of defense when it comes to those who are indigent and those who can't afford to hire an attorney, because that's the other way, right? If somebody has the means, then they're going to hire a defense attorney for themselves, and they will be have to put out a retainer. That's the term we use to kind of put money down to reserve an attorney's services, and then the services that they perform are billed and taken out of that retainer. So it kind of secures an attorney for somebody. But if you don't have the money to put down a retainer or don't have the money to hire a private attorney, then we go back to those two that we just talked about. Either the public defender's office or a defense attorney is going to be appointed for someone. And then bear in mind, it's not always going to be free. Some jurisdictions may charge a fee. Some jurisdictions may charge by the ability of somebody's um, wealth and somebody's income may determine how much they have to pay for the attorney. So in some jurisdictions, it may be completely free. Sometimes there may be an evaluation and say, "Oh, you make this much money, then this is how much you're going to be charged for your defense attorney." So not always completely free. But again, when it comes to the efficacy, like do folks who get quote unquote free attorneys, do they get the same level of service as somebody who pays for their own attorney? Is it worth it to pay for your own attorney? Well, if you look at your textbook, it gives some really revealing, really telling statistics, and essentially, I'll break them down, and you'll read more about them this week. But at the federal level and at the state level, the level of or the rate of conviction for those who are indigent and get a public defender, and those who pay for their own defense attorney, their own defense team, they're pretty much the same. The conviction rate is right. They're not statistically or significantly different between those who pay for an attorney and those who get a free attorney, those who get a public defender. That may say on the face, it may think like, why is anybody getting a defense attorney? Like, why would you ever pay for one if the conviction rate is essentially the same? Well, it's because we don't only look at conviction rates. That's not the only measure of efficacy. What about the results of that conviction? And as you'll see in this chapter, I don't want to spoil too much of the surprise for you, but you'll see that there is a significant difference in those who have a private attorney that they hire and those who use a public defender when it comes to the sentences that are the result of that similar conviction rate. So the conviction rate may be the same, but what comes after the conviction is significantly different. So it's pretty interesting to see that there is a difference between a private and a public attorney. So with that in mind, I will look forward to seeing your assignments. And again, as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Enjoy the rest of your week.